Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Speed India Academy's yet another session. Today we are launching a series of interviews where we are going to hear from young climate activists, leaders, change makers, and people who do incredible works on climate resilience. So we want this particular platform and series to echo their demand and their ideas and dreams. So I'm very excited today to welcome Sheen Tyagi. She's a 19-year-old youth activist from India who is making waves in the field of women's rights, climate change, sustainable development, and much more. So Sheen, I'm very happy to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much, Sheen. So we would like to hear your story today and to hear what you have to say on the climate change and the scenario today. So you have such an impressive background for someone so young, to be honest. So can you share a bit about yourself, your origin, and what you do with us?
Yeah, okay. First of all, thank you for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here to share my story. Honestly, sharing my story is not something I enjoy quite a lot, just because I don't like to talk a lot about myself. Probably why I kind of shifted from activism to more research work. But I'm really happy to be here. My name is Sheen Tyagi, as Hannah already introduced me. And I have been working in the change-making field for quite some time now. I know it's going to sound very, unbelievable, but I started at the age of 10. And that is something that I recognized when I was interviewed by the United Nations Foundation. Before that, even I did not realize that I had started so young. So my interests are in climate action and gender equality. Most of my work is focused in those two fields. Again, children's education and welfare and sustainable development happen to be branches which I also work for. And I've worked a lot with a lot of organizations. I have also represented Indian youth and South Asian youth at COP28. And my work has mostly, again, because as young people, we go in so many different directions. So my work has also gone through a lot of I would say turns, and right now I am working more in the research field, but later on I'm also planning that maybe I would shift again. So it's a never-ending journey, and I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you so much for that. It's incredible to hear that. So since you have mentioned that you started quite young at 10, so I'm just curious to know what got you into like climate change or things like that. So how did you become passionate about this? Is there any story or anything that triggered you first?
Yeah. So that is like such an interesting question to me, not just because it's the first question I hear all the time, but also because 99% of those times I have no idea how to answer it. Because, is there a definitive moment in our lives which changes it completely? I don't think so. Like, that really happens. I think for me, it was a very gradual process of observing people and situations around me, hearing their problems and demands. And I think that made me realize that there were changes in not just my community, but in India, but in the global South at large because of climate change. And I was like, I have to do something about this, right? As we all know, the global South is at a much higher risk than that, global North is, and hence we must have equitable representation from the global South in climate policy making and conferences, so that the voices are also heard. We see most of the popular climate activists like Greta Thunberg or anybody for that matter, or people I know personally from the climate field who are big names in the industry. We see that most of them belong from the global North, and there is quite a low amount of representation from the global South. So that is something we need to change. So I would definitely say that a huge part of me like entering this year has been because of the personality traits that we have as human beings. So I would say empathy and proactiveness was two of the things that I had ever since I was a young child. So they allowed me to feel and experience the pain of others and take action. So I think it stems a lot from feeling that sense of responsibility towards the world and the people that live in it, and it is something that cannot be instilled in someone. It can be invoked but not instilled. So if I had to say, like, what would I even hope with this interview, it would be to invoke that feeling in the viewers and giving them something meaningful to take away.
Great. So as you told, it would have been great if we could instill these thoughts to everyone. But
Yeah.
as you also mentioned, even that's what we are also aiming with this interview, that we raise voices and we kind of highlight the voices from the global south, so that more of our issues can be very much more clearly informed to people. So thank you so much for doing that for us. If you can tell me what were some of the things that you started with, if you can tell me what all platforms did you leverage, like from your small age. Going through your bio, I saw you did some climate drive during 2019. So what are platforms, if you can briefly tell me?
Yeah. So before I dive deep into this, I would firstly say that in my personal experience, I've seen that there are limitless avenues and platforms through which young people can engage in climate action. It does not have to be big. It does not have to be something, extraordinary for you to start. You can even start at the grassroots and then go higher. Technically that is what happens. You cannot just jump through the hoops without going through all the hurdles. So for me, honestly, it started as volunteering to help underprivileged students after school hours, and that transitioned to global discourse with other aware students through Generation Global. So I think it was very school level, and then I joined Generation Global, and it's a very wonderful platform. We get to meet students from around the world, and that gave me a very worldly insight into social issues and led me to discover a lot about inequalities and issues that persist in our world. Again, from the era that I am in, we that was kind of like a very initial phase of internet. We did not have a lot of time with YouTube, so YouTube came around 8th grade, I would say, personally for me. So as for information, it's first of all very important to educate yourself. So finding these platforms, not just Generation Global, you can look at multiple other platforms which kind of push you towards climate education. I think after that, I engaged in local community activities, and that is very easy to do. Just talk wherever you live, maybe a society or the community you're living in, talk with others, tell them about what you've heard. And I would say that personally, because my journey was also through the COVID-19 pandemic. So with the pandemic, a whole new world of social activism opened up. Since all organizations had to shift to the online mode, so many of them went global. So, mind you, I applied to hundreds of such organizations to be selected by a few of them. Rejection was abundant. But fast forward to now, those organizations have reached out to me personally to invite me for speaker sessions and positions. So I don't mean to humble brag by telling you this, but more like open your eyes to understand that to win, you have to never give up. So just because you get rejected doesn't mean you don't have what it takes. It just means that you need to gain more experience before you can join the said organization. So it's like very important for us to never forget that rejection is redirection, and sometimes, or should I say most of the times, young people don't get a chair at the proverbial decision making table. So I would again say that with that journey of applying to many organizations, getting rejected, I still persevered and I joined organizations like Learning Planet, which is a global community of change makers, and they also take in students even if they're not very experienced. So a wonderful platform, I would say. I also joined Girl Up, and I worked there for quite some time. I worked with the staff as well, very supportive. And again, working with these organizations, when your work is highlighted, so then organizations also reach out to you. For example, the UNF, they were the ones to approach me to give an interview. So you need to really hustle hard and persist. And remember that nobody said it was easy, but it is doable if you choose to persist.
Thank you so much for sharing that. A lot of perseverance, I could see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, young people like you hearing this would definitely get an idea of what to do and if they have a passion, how to pursue. So, thank you so much for sharing that. So, I'm just curious, what projects are you currently doing in, or are you studying, or what is your current update?
Yeah. So I am pursuing my undergraduate degree, about to finish my first year, and that comes along with a lot of its own,
Yeah.
hurdles and new things that you're discovering, new things that you're trying out, different industries that open up to you. And so it has been quite difficult to manage college just because it's so different from the school environment that I was in. But nevertheless, so currently, I'm working at Lungo, which is the youth constituency of UNFCCC, as the research director of the finance and markets working group, and we are working on a three-part report on climate finance. So our first report was need for climate finance, second was availability of climate finance, that was in collaboration with the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the third report is currently underway. So the first two reports have been published and they're available to all to read. And so, like I mentioned to you, I have transitioned from the awareness creation to more policy and research based work because, I believe that there are so many people out there in the advocacy circle who are already doing such great work with advocating for change. But there are, I would say many fewer people who are actually engaging in pushing for change through policy reform. And it is such a crucial part of actually implementing any change. Yes, awareness is very important, but so is pushing for change. And we can only do that when we have the facts, when we have the arguments to present to policymakers. So honestly, I'll tell you what, during COP, what I saw, I was expecting it to be a very monotonous event in the sense that, because policymakers are working in unison at a specific spot, specific building, and then there are events happening. But what you'll see is youth is actually trying to push through. They are trying to enter those buildings and they're trying to make their voices heard. They're trying to present the facts and they're trying to get things changed. And that is such a crucial part, which is often overlooked, because activism just means screaming and shouting to most people, and it's not really taken in a very good sense. But we need to understand that activism and advocacy have a lot of other elements as well. So this transition that I've gone through has been quite interesting for me. I've learned quite a lot. But again, with my college and everything that I'm going through, I'm still looking for my what next because, I still love the work that I did as an active change maker. And honestly, I'm at that standstill of my life where I'm contemplating, what I want to do moving forward in my journey of being a change maker. And, I would say that by God's grace, I have many achievements and successful past projects. And right now, I'm taking some time out to kind of figure out my next steps. So all I can say is stay tuned.
Yeah, it's perfectly natural, and our interest, our ideologies, the way that we want to portray our interest, it keeps on changing, and it's
True.
all for good. So we hope we can see you in many different ways, in many different forms. So it's actually very amazing to hear your story. And since you have just finished your school and moving into more active, between the young groups, I'm just curious, what do you think are the perspective of other young people who studies with you? Like, do they also share your passion, at least in the meanwhile, or are they also uh, thinking of the climate change? And
Yeah.
like, if have you ever tried to, let them also in with your, work? How do we engage with them? I'm also asking this because this is a big question in the humanitarian sector that we work in, because most of the people that we reach out to are in the senior generations, but we really want to tap youth because we know that's where all the progress, but it's very difficult for us to gain their interaction. So being a youth, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah, that's such an amazing question. Honestly, I would say that work-wise, my work has always been very youth-oriented in terms
Mhm.
of participation and peer work. So, collaboration is my go-to for engaging with others, because together we can do so much. Like I mentioned, so the work I'm doing at Yoga Finance and Markets Working Group, I'm working with people. So I'm the research director. I'm 19, and the people over there are 26 or they're 30, and I am kind of leading them. And so it's a very overwhelming task, to say the least, to be leading them in that way. And so working with an older generation comes with its own pros and cons. Yes, they are very willing to work, especially people involved in the climate section. The same can't be said about normal like people in our daily lives, but again, pushing for it is a whole different aspect. um as for the younger generation, I'm mostly engaged with them through platforms such as debates and Model UN. I've organized and chaired multiple Model UN conferences to kind of support and incite interest in diplomacy and change making in youth. And my work at Debate Spaces was very youth oriented, as we sparked interest in young students about social issues and pushed them to do something about it. It's a platform which offers free debating classes for people around the world, young people around the world. So I think that they have an age limit for a younger group of kids. All in all, youth involvement, I think, can be largely supported for youth when they are given access to opportunities and policy making. And I think even though we are offering those opportunities, again, we see a lot of uh, a lot of people being like kind of speculative about it and skeptical about it, that is it even real, is it even worth our time. Many people are with the mindset that, okay, we will live a good life, who cares about the next generation, which is, I think, very selfish. And as human beings, sometimes we do tend to be selfish, but it's very important to sometimes also remember that we did not inherit this from this world. So there's this very famous quote, as you would know: we did not inherit this world from our grandparents or something. We are borrowing it from the future generation. And I think that is something that I agree with. Matlab, of course we are borrowing it, but we are also living in it, and it's our duty to return it in a better situation, if not the same situation. But what we are seeing is industries and people just taking use and kind of misusing the resources that we have. And so it is quite tough to deal with such people and trying to make them understand the ills of their ways. But again, it's a world with various types of people, various types of cultures, various types of experiences. You cannot change everyone, but you can try to change them.
That was really nice. So, like, in general, if you would like to tell us something like, as an NGO, you can do this to tap youth, or as a government, you can do this. So, if I had to ask that question to you, what would be something that you would be doing to tap someone with energy to this?
Yeah. So honestly, I think first of all, let's just highlight some of the initiatives and opportunities that the government has for you to engage in. I think some worth mentioning ones would be, the National Action Plan on Climate Change. I think it's NAPCC. And it includes, missions which are aimed at promoting renewable energy, enhancing energy efficiency, and conserving natural resources. So they're trying to create a policy environment that supports climate action. And I think it was launched in 2008, but not many of us know about it. And so engaging with such initiatives, or I've also seen that a lot of people have now started working with Niti Aayog India. They have really good internships for university students. I was also considering that. And so such innovative internships, fellowships, or like these are really pushing forward some positive change in our society. There are government schemes like the Green Skill Development Program, which is aimed at empowering youth with skills in environmental conservation and sustainable development. And the Indian government has their own amount of fellowships and internships to provide young activists with hands-on experience in policy making and implementation. And so I would also mention that at COP, while I was doing an interview, I also saw the Minister of Environment, and I really wanted to go and talk to them. But then again, that video was going on the way; they were on the way. But because I was wearing a sari, they could understand that yes, this is like an Indian youth, and so we smiled at each other. And so it is so nice to see when when you will go at such events. I saw so many people in saris. There was so much of representation over there, and so COP28 was the biggest COP conference of all times, and so it is really good to see that Indian people are going out there, they are making their voices heard, and even the government is very supportive in that manner. uh, and yeah, so I think other than that, we have also seen that there has been a lot of integration of environmental education in school and college curricula recently, and there has been a lot of support for research and development in climate science and sustainability at universities. That's what I am also kind of witnessing at my college, and so this is on the rise to raise awareness from a young age. As for NGOs, some noteworthy NGOs would be Center for Environment Education and TERI, so Energy and Resources Institute. They conduct a lot of workshops and training sessions, and they provide resources to empower young activists. And we also see so many NGO organizations and nonprofit organizations which are actively engaging students and young people into this global movement. And so, needless to say, there's quite a positive acceleration. However, much more can be done to enhance the accessibilities of these resources and these opportunities, and to scale youth initiatives. These are again the same things that I did mention at my COP speech, because I think these three things are very much important right now for Indian youth to be at the forefront and represent the global South strongly. Firstly, I believe that we need to establish some types of formal mechanisms for including young activists in policy making processes at local, state, and national levels. At COP, I did mention that we could have a communication set up so that all youth activists can engage with each other. Right now, at this point, we don't have any platform where all Indian youth can actually converse with each other. Yes, we meet each other on global platforms. We don't meet each other on Indian platforms because there are none. And so having those are very important, so that there can be unanimous synergic work towards climate action and on various levels. Secondly, so yeah, this will kind of promote some systematic and fair recognition of all youth voices on all different levels. Secondly, there is a need for increasing the availability of funds and kind of simplifying the application processes for young activists seeking to start or expand climate projects. So there is a global need for this, as youth has the answers, but not the means to achieve the goals and targets that they set out on. This is something that we also have recognized on a global level in our report that I mentioned to you. And so what we are pushing for globally is to have funds for youth initiatives, because there are such great initiatives out there, but they just do not have the fund for implementing them. And even at COP, we saw acceleration for all the different types of climate branches. But when it comes to climate finance for youth initiatives, we are seeing a lack of participation from governments and private sector. So that is something that we really need to push for. Lastly, I think it is very important to encourage partnerships between NGOs, government, and the private sector to support youth-led initiatives through funding, expertise, and resources, which is again key to achieving long-term equitable success for youth climate initiatives. Because it's not just important to have them all take part, but it is also important for them to take part together and coming together to form meaningful funds. Yeah.
That was a great deal of suggestions and information. Thank you so much. There's a lot of things that we can also take forward. And I would also like to say, I have seen a couple of youth like collectives at national level But again, the problem is we don't know, we are not able to reach out to everyone. So
Yeah.
there were a few couple of people who came, but there is still more that we have to identify. So again, through the series, and we are also working on a youth outreach program. So our intention is to bring all of you together to one platform. So, and to, like, so that we can have more effective brainstormings. So thank you so much. So we have almost come to an end. So lastly, I know you don't have like any immediate plans, and you are still studying, you have a lot of time in front of you. But if I can ask you, like, what is your future goals, or if you have any dream that you would like to achieve, anything future?
So, I would say my future goals and dreams for climate action at this point is to push for climate finance and youth in policy making. Like I've said, youth has a lot to offer, be it through their voice, putting forth options, and holding leaders accountable, or through their climate initiatives. It is key that we put them at the forefront of all climate action work. As such, I'm already involved in initiatives and I have also advocated for the same at many events in the past. And looking forward, I plan to stay engaged in this journey and advocate for a spotlight on global youth voices. Personally, I am quite very confused as to what I want to do next, because there were a lot of projects and organizations I was working with, and they have come to an end. I have completed them, and at this point, my main focus and current running focus is on the report with Younger. But after that, I am really considering what do I want to do next and how do I want to move forward with this journey. I did receive a lot of organizations asking me to join their ambassador programs or whatever. But at this point, I'm like still trying to figure out what I want to do next, because there are so many things that I could go into. But I think whatever I will do, it will most probably be for people. And because I think that's what my passion lies in, working with people, helping them out. And so it could be anything. I'm still discovering every single day, and I'm really looking forward to whatever the future holds for me.
Sure, sure. Like, aiming to work for climate finance itself is a big thing, and more than that, highlighting working for youth voices to be heard is, it's huge. So thank you so much for hanging in, and we hope to see you in the climate sphere like 10, 20 years from today. So like before we wrap up, if you could let people know where they can learn more about your work or get involved in climate activism and advocacy efforts, or get to know about you, you can share your.
Yes. So I have a website. It is Sheen Tyagi, SHEENTYAGI .CARRD.co. That's my website, through which you can access all my social media handles. You can get access to my email address if you want to reach out to me personally. And yes, you can reach me out on those social media handles, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. And more than that, it also lists all the previous things that I've done, all the work achievements and whatever. And so if you want to have a look, you can go over there. Actually, there's this line that I discovered when I was in 12th grade, and I had met new people, and they asked me, can you tell us a little bit about you? And so, previously, because of all these links, when I randomly went on to Google, and I know it's a little narcissistic, but I searched myself, a lot of things came up, a lot of my photos and stuff. So when I met those new people, I told them, okay, you want to get to know a little bit about me. I'm kind of famous, so you can Google me. And so that worked like a charm. It works like a charm every single time. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can just Google me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive. That was very nice. So that's wonderful hearing about your story, Sheen. And at this age, really big applause for you. And we hope you continue to do whatever you're doing and whatever your passion is. And if there is any support from as an organization that we can do, we are always here to support you. And as your recommendation, we'll definitely think of youth uh, platform, like a national platform where youth, involved with this climate activism and climate change can come together. And also we are in search of people who are working like you. So we hope we get a good database of people and then we can bring all of them together. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for this wonderful opportunity. It is a pleasure talking with you and learning about your work. We hope you find even more platforms and opportunities to take forward your cause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah.